my little poppets, to
Want to watch now,
where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And in today's episode, we are talking about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season 2, Episode 8, Chapter 19, The Mandrake. Oh my god, I love this one! This might be my favorite one. This was like truly in itself a mini horror film, and I fucking loved it. And I'm just so proud of Kiernan because I feel like in the first season, I kind of commented on this lately, that I kind of gave her a little bit of a break for seeming just a bit off with her acting because I knew what she was capable of. I didn't know what was in the way, but throughout this entire season, she's just way more in it. Even when she's like casually talking, it just doesn't feel out of place. And she's had a lot of really fun roles where she's had to either be very sarcastic, evil, and in this one, she just played a loony bin, and I fucking loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I'm kind of sad this is the end of Mandrake Sabrina, because I hope they do another one like this. Like, Riverdale people, I know you're listening, or, I'm sorry, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina people, I know you're listening, sorry to confuse the two, because this show is actually amazing, and I really loved it. Even though we're still continuing the very tedious idea of Father Blackwood, he was put way more on a back burner for this episode, and it was way more about the fun and the silliness that, the Adventures of Sabrina. It was an adventure with Sabrina. So, okay. So Sabrina, basically in this episode, starts off talking with all of her friends, including Nick Scratch. So she's got a little bit of the human world, a little bit of the witch world, and they're talking over the prophecy of like, okay, clearly this is a prophecy, and we want to stop it. By the way, love the little shitty comment from Nick Scratch calling Harvey like Harry, and she rolls her eyes and she's like, his name's Harvey, like, you know, can you please stop being petty? Like, she's very quick to being like, can everyone stop this pettiness? That's one of the number one things I love about Sabrina is her directness. There's never, I've talked about this before, doesn't it drive you nuts in a show where there's a misunderstanding and then later when you see the characters and maybe they break up for that reason, no one ever just full on says, by the way, you misunderstood me, X, Y, and Z happened. They're always just like, they allow themselves to be cut off, they allow it to be this emotional engaged, and it becomes nonsense for like 3 or 4 episodes. Sabrina's super direct, she cuts to the point often, and she also can tell when someone's being petty and calls people out, but also gives a little bit of the benefit of the doubt if they're hurting and stuff like that. So she's kind of like, honestly, my ideal friend. I just like really love Sabrina as a character. She's like, okay, so I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but like, when we as women, and I would say most people who have respect for, like, both genders, you want both people to be represented in the best possible way. You want to see an evolution. And to me, this is, like, what women want to come across as. They want to come across as intelligent, smart, capable, and honestly not so cliched. Because sometimes in an effort to make women appear as strong as they are, it can feel corny or cliched. So this has just been a really nice turnaround, and I look forward to keep seeing more characters like that is all I'm going to say. Anyways, so they're talking, they want to break up this whole situation, they want to figure it out, so Sabrina borrows the drawing and she's going to go investigate the situation and ask Miss Wardwell with Nick. Simultaneously, when they're leaving, by the way, in this whole episode, Theo had so many comedic and heroic moments. I love that these side characters don't get left behind, but fuck, dude, I feel like they're constantly in between the brutality of like all the up and downs with the Church of Night and various things like that. But the thing is, Sabrina already tried to distance herself from her friends to prevent them from all this grief, so at this point, they don't blame her, which I'm glad about, but it's like, honey, it's too late. You're gonna get swept up in this shit whether you like it or not, because technically, from what we see at the end of this episode, even if they didn't know Sabrina, they would have been, you know, lumped in with the rest of the mortals, so it's kind of inevitable either way. So anyways, there's a moment where Harvey and Roz have a serious discussion, and I'm glad Roz brought it up, of just being like, why did you say those lines in the previous episode, if you ever loved me? Do you still love her? What's the situation? And he's great. He's very forward and is basically like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I did love her, but I don't anymore, and I really love you. That felt genuine. But if I'm being honest with Harvey, honey, I think you'll always have a little bit of like, I mean, we can see in this episode that he's not going to quickly go back to her. I don't think that's the case, but like I said, I don't know, there's just some sort of connection between them. I just see them being in each other's lives forever, which sometimes it works out like that. I actually have a friend, I mean, I won't go into it obviously because this is her personal business, but long story short, she's not with this person anymore, but there's this, like, they're still weirdly in each other's lives. There's this, like, ultimate respect for one another, and no matter how long they've been apart, they seem to keep knowing each other, sharing each other's secrets, sharing about each other's new relationships. So it's complex, but some people are just important to other people the rest of their lives. So anyways, Harvey reassures Roz, and I love in that moment when she's asking that, Theo, like, Harvey tries to stop Theo from leaving, and Theo's like, I'm not in the middle of this, bye. We get a little peek in with Lilith and Adam. I love that she named him Adam, and she literally gave him her rib. That was beautiful. That totally goes, it kind of shows how, like, she's in control. And even though her Adam died, unfortunately, it's kind of like a beautiful turnaround, because in the end, she wanted love, and she wanted to be treated fairly, which is why she initially left the first Adam. And in reality, she wanted to have power and independence. And so it's like she finally gets to take that on as the Adam, like the creator, whatever. Which, by the way, I wonder if, like, the first Adam is watching from heaven with, like, popcorn, just being like, wow, my first wife is up to some crazy ass shit. Just looking down, watching. So anyways, she ends up being interrupted by Sabrina. By the way, she created this monster because she is upset about Adam and she wants to get back at the Dark Lord by getting rid of his person. And initially she's excited because Sabrina is there and she's like, cool, my monster can kill Sabrina right now. Perfect timing. This is awesome. But of course she shows up with protection with Nick's crash, and I love her, like, Jesus, you know, like, just like, of course you're protected at this convenient moment. So she ends up being really clever and talking Sabrina into separating herself with her powers. That way she would be left vulnerable. When I speak, by the way, I don't know what it is, but, like, when I'm talking to you in person, I speak a lot more eloquently, and I was hoping with podcasting I would get better. I have, but I say a lot of words grammatically wrong or incorrectly, because it's like the words are at the tip of my tongue, but I'm just kind of black out when I do these podcasts and just speak and don't remember what happens in the chunk of time I'm talking. I'm very aware that things are said wrong, but if I get too hooked up on the grammatical errors, I just end up being so confuddled I'm unable to finish the episode. So just so you know, I'm fully aware of these mistakes I'm making. I'm trying to improve and get better. Just know I'm trying really hard, guys, okay? So anyways, Sabrina, what was I gonna say? So she convinces Sabrina to separate herself from her powers through a spell that involves, like, transferring that part of herself into a mandrake. It would make her mortal, but in a way it could potentially stop the prophecy. This is how clever she is. She tricks Sabrina to get into thinking she gave her what she wanted, but then simultaneously, like, right now, because she's, like, pissed at the Dark Lord, she's getting what she wants. She's so brilliant in that way, and I think she's quite a master manipulator. And like I said, I don't want Sabrina to die, but, like, I just love Lilith so much that I'm like, you go, girl, you plot away. Anyways, so they end up going, she ends up going to Ambrose. We only get a little sample size of tasting Ambrose now, no longer imprisoned by anyone. I love his, like, back to his sarcastic being, the way he was like, why does this always happen to you, cousin? And she's like, I know, you know, casual apocalypse talk. So he helps her with the whole Mandrake situation that appears at first to be unsuccessful. By the way, interesting conversation she has with Nick before this. He tries to convince her to not do it, but of course Sabrina does what she wants to do without little, like, she doesn't look into things. She moves too hastily. Meanwhile, he's trying to research her prophecy and what the situation is. And he's perfect for it, because not only does he have access to the forbidden books, but he also, he's just, like, he's really deep into this kind of, like, demonology and that type of true hell path lore, so he's perfect for it. Anyways, this is kind of an interesting part because with a little bit of his comment towards Harvey on purpose, he knows his name to put him down, that insecurity's there, and the level of him not wanting Sabrina to be removed from her magic. I don't know if she senses this yet, but he clearly, I don't know if he'd date her if she was immortal. Interestingly enough, she'd be fulfilling her father's prophecy by being immortal and dating a warlock. I just like an ironic perspective of this. But I feel bad for Sabrina in this moment. All this season, I've really, been into Nick. I think he's a good fit for her. He's more helpful and whatever, and Harvey's been more petty. Again, to be fair, he is grieving. We gotta keep bringing that up, because, let's be real. He's not crying as much as we're seeing, but, that for sure is still on his mind. And I really liked his brother. It's so sad that he's gone. So, anyways, going forward, but she either has a boy who only wants her to be immortal or only wants her to be a witch. Watch out. If there's a third boy that shows up to the table and accepts her for both of these sides, Harvey and Nick are both screwed. By the way, on my Twitter, you're welcome to follow. I love talking about all this stuff and talking to you guys often about it. But Nick Scratch ended up winning. I put out a poll, and it was I put out, who do you root for Sabrina ending up with? And it was Harvey, Nick, both, or Prudence. And Prudence got her fair share of votes, which I thought was really cute, because I too love Prudence and I'm not loving her right now. Made this poll way before I knew Prudence, but love Prudence, and I wanted Prudence and Sabrina to be together just for funsies, because they're two favorite characters of mine. But Nick actually won. So I don't know if these people were voting from the perspective of having seen the whole series, or they're just like me and they had watched a good chunk of it and they just liked Nick. But in that moment, it kind of gave some a little peek, a little insight of what would he be like if Sabrina truly was mortal? Is that enough for him? And it keeps bringing up the conversation of is he the devil? Is he not the devil? I definitely don't think he's a devil at this point, because the way he has a conversation with this Wardwell and is unaware of the prophecy, the full prophecy, what is he baiting her for? That the Dark Lord doesn't bait for very long, and it usually ends tragically. So this just doesn't feel like his style is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, so meanwhile, Sabrina kind of leaves most of the episode to go for plan B of trying to remove her powers with a mud golem type thing. And when she is gone during this time, her Mandrake is come alive and is a crazy person. I love how she was played. I called her the wide-eyed Sabrina. So the white-eyed. By the way, she totally went cross-eyed when she would go white-eyed, and I loved it. Anyways, the cross-eyed, white-eyed Sabrina was a fucking crazy person. She had a higher-pitched voice, and she was very over dramatic without yelling. She was crazy, and I loved it. She was just your perfect little weird horror film. We get different moments of her confronting all her different friends, and when they basically don't agree with her, it just, everything goes white. Her crazy demon powers that she has, that she is now the embodiment. She truly is the only one with the powers. Sabrina doesn't know it yet this time, but she's just mortal. So the little crazy Mandrake, Sabrina, is basically capturing all her friends and doing something to them at that point. She has an interesting conversation with Harvey. In that moment, we learn with her and Harvey that she really, or Harvey really does just love Roz, and he's making it clear, being we're not like that. Where is this coming from? I loved with Roz. Thank God Roz has the cunning, because they almost, at the very end, didn't trust Sabrina again, and in fact, Roz was able to clear things up and right away be that's not Sabrina, it's her twin or something. And even Theo, again, they do such a great job with Theo in multiple ranges. Not only is she not a throwaway character, okay, so I think they did an amazing job with her sexuality. They brought up another point of her sexuality. Someone truly is an ally on that show and is giving her character a lot of love. So on one hand, they really did a great job talking about transitioning and what that feels like and stuff like that, and they keep that conversation going because it is such a complex, emotional, developing thing for anyone. Puberty is hard for us all. Imagine going through puberty, and you're going through puberty in the body that you didn't initially feel connected to, or felt you were born in the wrong body, if I'm saying that correctly. So anyways, they did that, but I don't ever feel like she's a throwaway character. Because again, we talk about representation. Sometimes shows will have characters and really focus on the idea that someone is not a traditionally, like, quote-unquote, white character. If I'm saying anything that ruffles your feathers, get the fuck over it. You know what I'm talking about. And it ends up being this thing where it's like, you're so happy that people are just being, blind casted. They're just being chosen to be chosen. But then you realize their representation becomes the only focus, and you're like, people can be going through something and also have a personality. And I feel like they've done that with Theo. Theo's had a lot of opportunities to have opinions, discuss bullying, be funny. She's got a great, I'm so sorry. Theo has a great personality. And I like that they don't throw that away. So it's really fun and interesting. So anyways, when Sabrina confronts Theo, they have a really interesting, important conversation, because essentially, when Sabrina's talking to Theo, she says some really insensitive things, and I love that Theo stands up for himself, and he's like, listen, I am proud of who I am. And this is something people don't really understand or connect to, that even though they hadn't come out yet, they were always a boy. No matter what you see, they are proud of their body. They don't need to change it to feel the way they feel and be validated. That's also really important. I don't think that's expressed enough, because some people can never afford the operation. You know what I mean? And then it gets confusing because some people want to come across as more of a feminine or masculine version of their gender, and people are trying to understand, are you someone that is just more, of the opposing typical stereotype of that gender, or do you feel you were born in the wrong body? Because people are just trying to understand each other and, give each other the appropriate respect and titles, whatever the other person wants. So I liked that conversation of her. I think it represented people who maybe can't afford the surgeries, but again, this gets into the complex discussion of sexuality, like, maybe, like, she doesn't, or I'm so sorry, I keep doing that, apologies. Maybe he doesn't want to change. Maybe he is happy with who he is, and that was kind of the lesson with the tarot card reading in itself. That you don't need to be anybody but yourself to represent that. Does that make sense? Okay, anyways. So, Mandrake's Sabrina zaps all of them and takes all of them because she's like a fucking hilarious, crazy person. And she captures them and puts them in the woods and makes I love the giant Mandrake versions of themselves. I also love I love Ross Lynch and his acting. He's so great. I loved when he was like a weird, half-formed, kind of dumb, coming-to-life Mandrake, half-naked, coming out of... By the way, if you'll notice, Theo and Roz still in their clothes. Harvey was not in his clothes. What was with that? Oh, wait, no. Maybe the Mandrakes are naked. Never mind. I was just laughing at that initially, though. But Theo is, again, confronted by her passed away aunt, her great aunt, I think it is. By the way, we haven't seen a lot of her, and she initially kind of started coming off a little bit evil towards the end of season 1, so I wonder what they're going to do with her. Either way, she's kind of popped in and out once or twice during the season, and she basically is like, Theo, wake the fuck up, go take care of, connect to this, not connect to this, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Wake up, go kill the Mandrakes. So Theo is the hero, gets out, kills everybody else's Mandrake. I imagine it was, very upsetting to kill a version of your friend. I mean, what's the word? Commend Theo that he wasn't, scarred for life by that. But they were able to be saved by Theo, and before they can turn a switch and judge Sabrina, it's revealed in that moment by Roz that, no, in fact, just a Mandrake Sabrina. Also love Mandrake's Sabrina when she takes on the Judas Society. I don't know if it was all the members or just a section. Nice little way of erasing some of the allegiance. And also, let's be real here, it was so fun and amazing to watch her just do one little cross move and successfully take them all out. And I could not stop obsessing over Mandrake Sabrina's, hilariousness. The way she kept saying, why is everyone not nice to me? And to be fair, Mandrake Sabrina, I don't blame you. I mean, can you imagine, you want to think that this Mandrake Sabrina is inherently evil, but in fact, she's like a baby experiencing all these emotions for the first time, but at the same time, she's given the intelligence and capability of speaking. So she is born into this world and is reacting as intensely as a baby is. I mean, think about when babies like hit you in the head by accident. They don't even know what they're doing. It makes sense why they're born with being so weak and without any capabilities of like really attacking you, thank God. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? Like, that's why I think it's always like a great horror idea. Like, even in the Ghibli, where the giant baby is like, if you don't want to play with them, they could potentially smash you and get rid of you just out of their emotional mood swing. So, loved Crazy Mandrake Sabrina. Meanwhile, we have a bit of drama going on with fucking, again, Prudence. Like, I'm really feeling a lot of mixed emotions towards her characters. I feel kind of fucking annoyed by how she's being written right now. I mean, like, how many fucking times can we have this back and forth where you think Prudence is finally gonna get it with Father Blackwood? And what's weird is, like, again, because we've known her now up to this point for a good season and a half, it's so not like her to be so subservient and be given proof time and time again and still keep betraying everyone around her who's honestly trying to help her. So basically what happens is she right away can sense something is wrong with Zelda when, what was her name? What was the girl's name? Elsbeth. Elsbeth, the girl who was resurrected by Sabrina, is trying to basically escape and doesn't want to go with the whole new world order of the crazy Father Blackwood who put like the statue in the school and wants this tons of like sexism or whatever being placed in the school. Totally is just branching off like a loony bin person. Anyway, that being the case, Aunt Zelda does warn her sister, and she steps in, still trying to be in character, to prevent Elsbeth from dying, because that's devastating. Not only to obviously protect a fellow witch, but I think she would protect a fellow warlock. She really loves her peers, her brothers and sisters, and this is like everything opposing that idea. So Prudence can sense the character break and catches her out of it and confronts her. And Zelda does not take kindly to this, and they have a really great discussion that I think kind of says it all. Prudence initially leaves that a little hurt but not fully convinced, because basically she tries to make the argument of, I have my father's name, which, girl, you only got his father's name because you almost successfully killed him and he subdued you. He knew it was like his last thing in his book. But this whole time he's been treating her like a nanny. He's been putting her aside. When he put in the new order of how to control everyone, he only allowed her to have powers, but just her. And while I think part of her liked being in power, she wasn't a fan of watching her fellow peers be prosecuted, especially as a woman. I think Prudence is, I mean, she even said the very first episode when her and Sabrina like tortured the other boys, the idea of the Dark Lord and free will, and how she understands that a lot of men are sexist because they'd be afraid of a woman in power and with independence. So like, Prudence, like, we know what she wants. It just feels out of character. And so anyways, but I understand, like, her main goal right now is to rise up in this religion and this faith she believes in so much. And there is a hierarchy, and she's all about playing the game. So anyways, she has this conversation with Zelda, and she says, well, I have his name. And Zelda makes the point of being like, me too, honey, look what he's doing to me. And she's like, well, I have it by blood. And she's like, yeah, well, do you remember your fucking sister Letitia? Remember how you helped behind her? Because maybe deep down you know what your father's capable of. And you're not admitting it to yourself right now, but let's be fucking reasonable. And I thought that was like a great, I love how smart Zelda is. I'm very happy she's back, and she knows how to fight with like actual bloodlust, and she'll go there. But her greatest asset is her intelligence and able to sway anyone. I mean, truly a skill. So this ends up backfiring in Zelda's face, because Zelda is all about giving people chances because she doesn't want to execute these people. Because I think, like, Prudence is a formidable foe, and someone she's come to love and respect and build a bond with over time, not only just with Letitia, but other things. Well, unfortunately, Zelda shouldn't have said that, because she ends up delivering Letitia, Prudence does, to her father. That's when Zelda gets taken and kidnapped, and he now has his daughter and his son, which it gets so much worse from there. So Prudence feels like happy with herself and her allegiance, but that backfires when they're having their awkward family dinner, which I'm like laughing that he even has the awkward family dinners with her, even considering how low he sees her and why she wouldn't just want to be with her sisters, who are a lot more fun. Like, fuck, like, god damn. It's one of the biggest things I feel for people. If you've been hurt or abandoned by anyone in your life, I'm not referring to just purely a mother or father, because I've experienced it myself or seen it with others when it comes to maybe anything, like a friend or whatever. It's like we allow ourselves to endure this abuse that's so illogical in any other situation, but we just can't wrap our minds around this one person not liking us or treating us badly, even though we know it's happening in front of us. So I'm just like waiting for Prudence to fucking wake up. And no, I don't think she's woken up yet. So she ends up talking to her dad about, like, what is his ultimate goal. And he talks about how he's going to give Prudence, this child, who he's renamed Judith, which I'm like, Jesus Christ. Judith and Judas, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Also, by the way, we don't discuss it enough, but I thought it was hilarious that he has the Judas Society. That makes sense, because their kind of version of, not Jesus, but like Moses would be Judas, because they see God as the quote-unquote false God and Lucifer Morningstar as the truth, the truth bringer. They see Judas as the person helping continue bring out the truth, so they would see him as like a positive figure. Again, I love all the play on words and the ideologies being brought about. And in addition to that, I just had to laugh that he like named his son Judas. He happens to have a society of the Judas Society. I mean, it's just too much Judas. Anyways, I'm waiting for the secret Judith Society is all I'm going to say. But he disgustingly reveals his plans that he's going to treat her really well and he's going to give her the best of everything, which I'd be worried for Prudence, because he hasn't really given her that. Like, she's had to fight for it. Like, in a way, Judith will now be her competition. The way it was before with the babies, and the mom, the original Lady Blackwood, thought Prudence would be to her future children. And it turns out his plans are to literally, he didn't even say marry. He's assuming, he's like literally going to make it happen when they're 16. He wants the twins to basically get together and keep the Blackwood line pure. Is that not fucking disgusting? Not just incest. I mean, that alone by itself is disgusting. And forcing incest. Not that, like, I mean, incest isn't cool, but, like, okay, we're gonna get really gross here. Some people voluntarily chose it, and at least it was their decision. It was how they felt. Still not condoning it. I'm so sorry I said that. Just making that perfectly clear. I do not condone that. But what I'm saying is, they're being extra forced into a position, and then it gets even more disgusting, more sinister, that he's basically insinuating he wants it to happen as fast as possible, so as soon as they're 16 and they sign their names in the book, like, he's gonna, like, disgustingly make that shit happen. And I'm sure he's gonna favor Judas the entire way. I mean, it's really creepy and absolutely gross to me. And so, you think in this moment Prudence is finally waking up, and she does let Zelda out, basically say, like, I'm gonna let you get out, I'm seeing how horrible my father is. Zelda even is like, please come with us, even after all you've done, I want to protect you. That is how good these people are. I mean, Sabrina had been condemned by Prudence, and she still rose up and gave her life to protect these girls, even when, after she protected Prudence, Prudence still put her fucking beloved aunt, her maternal figure, in jail. I mean, like, Prudence is the fucking worst. So Zelda's like, I will, give you sanctuary at my house. And Prudence is like, I can't leave my sisters, and I can't leave the rest of the coven. Because, again, she's very much a diehard for all her brothers and sisters, which it's surprising to hear that considering all this, like, power and terribleness happening around her. And she says she stays for them. But you're left wondering that because she gives a sort of look to the camera that makes it seem like she isn't fully in support of Zelda either, that maybe that's a lie too. Maybe this is another trick. I just can't tell anymore, and I'm just really fucking tired of the way they wrote this character so far and where she's going. I don't mind when she goes back and forth, that is very prudent, but to this level, it's just so not like her, and it's just not my thing. But I loved Hilda trying to go to the council, by the way, trying to stop Father Blackwood. I loved when they were pieces of shit. Because, like, isn't that how it always is when someone's in that high of power? It's like, what's your point of your existence if you're not going to do anything? You keep warning me that I can't summon you. Isn't that literally the whole point of you existing, is to be summoned and make decisions? Well, ultimately, she ends up being told by the council of, like, stop trying to mess with us. We don't give a shit how Father Blackwood ends up running the church. We don't care. Because as long as we're in power, we don't give a shit how anything runs. Which just shows, like, how much... Like, example, I mean, this is how, in reality, what we know of the Dark Lord, he doesn't give a shit about the witches and wizards as much as they think they do, and the council doesn't give a shit about them as much as they think they're being protected by these people. Isn't that how it can be? So, what happens is, she ends up just telling them off beautifully, and I love her kind of forewarning, because I thought it was a great forewarning. I mean, some people use it in a religious standpoint, when they're battling each other and they believe in whatever faith they are. But I mean, we know in this world, the Dark Lord is motherfucking real. And a lot of these witches have experienced him firsthand. Like, he does not mess around. He hangs out and involves himself with his followers. So when she warned, like, I see you for who you are, and so does the Dark Lord, that's actually, like, a pretty fucking good threat. Because I don't think he's loyal to any of his witches or wizards, but if you get in his fucking way, and I'm sure if Blackwood got too much power, it would not be good. It would not be good for any of them. So, going forward, anyways, we get this big, forgot, by the way, the councilman tried to make a move on Hilda, and she captured him with her familiars and her spiders. Loved that. So fucking funny. So anyways, big finale. So, Miss Wardwell got confronted by Sabrina. They put together with Nick that the prophecy has to have certain acts, the acts of the Nazareth, that are reenacted. And these things that have been happening in her life, which it's so funny because when she's been doing them, I've even been tricked that, like, we've seen her manipulate things and make things happen, but I always thought it was to emotionally upset Sabrina and lead her down the darker path. Little did we know, she really was being led down the darker path because the acts of Nazareth that she's performed up to now, like an exorcist, resurrection, a bunch of other stuff that we've seen in the first season as well, have all been a part of unlocking that. And the last one, this is the big shebang that she ends up revealing to Nick. Again, this is why I'm thinking at this point he's not the devil, because that's like a kind of a theory out there at this point, that the last one is she has to basically commit suicide. And she's going to end up killing her Mandrake, which is a form of suicide. And that will be the final thing that opens up the last gate. And this is really important because Miss Wardwell said it perfectly. She's like, I don't give a shit if the apocalypse happens or not. I don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to be alive either way. And it's not even about self-preservation. I think she's just been alive for so long, she just could not give a shit anymore. And that being said, I'm so sorry, I'm losing track of my thought. She ends up realizing that if she fulfills this prophecy, it will make Sabrina ultimately be the person that is by his side. So she realized her fears are coming to fruition, that she will be next to the Dark Lord's side, not her. But this is more of the important part, because she's honestly at this point, like, over the Dark Lord. What she's more concerned with is that they will have dominion over witches and mortals. I think that's so interesting because, I don't know, like, in the prophecies that are more for the positive, for the, like, heavenly type prophecies in TV shows or real life, I'm not very familiar with the Bible and stuff like that. It's always for the benefit of, like, hey, if you're on my side, I'll save all the good guys. on his side, on Morning Lucifer's side, the Dark Lord side, everyone's fucked, whether you dedicate yourself to him or not. And that is terrifying to think of. And Miss Wardwell does not like it. She's tired of this cruel relationship. So she's actually down for helping Sabrina, stop this thing. And keep in mind, Sabrina has no idea. So we get this cute moment between crazy Mandrake Sabrina and regular Sabrina. And I love when she almost turns and kills mortal Sabrina. And then you see mortal Sabrina kind of give this face of like, whoa girl, what's happening? And Ambrose beautifully stops her because he says later she is like a newborn. So she has not developed things like strategy. And they trick her into thinking that they will have a duel and it will be a supposed honorable act because she's too powerful. And if you want to be an honorable witch, of course you do, you want to go out in a way that's a little more fair fighting. I thought it was interesting though, before and after the duel, this sweetness between the two of them. Even the Mandrake Sabrina's like, is this how it has to be? Because while she seems crazy and did try to kill mortal Sabrina's real friends and make her own Mandrake friends, in the end, she really just wanted to be liked and be nice. She was erratic about how she handled things, but even she felt an emotion towards her mortal counterpart. She even says that she pitied her, which is interesting. She's not blanketly evil, which I think makes an even more fun little horror villain. I really loved this episode. I really loved it. Kiernan was so funny as the Mandrake Sabrina. It was so good. If you could watch any episode, if I were to suggest any episode to watch, this whole one was a blast beginning to end. So they go to have the duel, and mortal Sabrina cheats and shoots sooner, because who gives a shit about cheating? We're trying to prevent this apocalypse happening, and she thinks she's doing it by killing the other one. She's really sweet and feels so sorry. It's actually quite sad when Mandrake Sabrina says, "You shot first. That's not fair." And you feel bad for her, honestly. And she goes over and she comforts basically herself. It's quite sad. Even Ambrose feels eerie about it. But unfortunately, basically, in the not nick of time, Miss Wardwell shows up with Nick. They basically are like, girl, you made a mistake. You basically fulfilled the last prophecy, and now all hell's gonna break loose. And we even get a great little, I like in this show, they really love a good lightning bolt with some sort of image put over something else, little horns in the background, and we get a moment of Sabrina with white eyes and the thorns crowned. I thought it was so cool, and it's so haunting. And honestly, we have one more fucking episode left, and this was a crazy one to end on. I talk about stakes being risen and how they're gonna go against that. I mean, I thought the stakes were high when she killed the 13 ghost witches and broke up with Harvey and signed her name in the book, but I thought that was a 0 to 100. This was a 0 to 3,000. Okay, cool. Now season 3, the apocalypse. I mean, we haven't gotten to that point yet. It hasn't full on happened yet, but I'm assuming that's what the next episode's just going to at least be working up to talking about. I don't think she's going to stop it in the nick of time. So again, really loved this episode. So fun. Father Blackwood, I hate him. Fuck him. He's not the anti-pope we deserve, and I'm glad he's not. Other than that, guys, excited for the next one, the final episode. Woo! Don't forget to tune in. I'm gonna try to do it today. It just depends on noises and things like that. That's the only thing preventing me from doing all of these episodes in one day. If everyone's mowing their fucking lawn, what can I do? Other than that, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Become a Patreon today. I love you in the most platonic way possible. Bye!